to have another era or to build another future, not only for them, but even for the coming generations. Regarding Egypt, unfortunately, there are some divisions. And I cannot deny that there were at least media reports saying that in the referendums we had, in the parliamentary elections, some sects or age categories, at least their participation was not as we expected or as we hoped that they are going to go to the polling stations to vote and to share, as I say. First, the reason behind that. Some would say that they are not interested for economic reasons, for example. Some would say that this is a kind of being indifferent. My voice or my vote is not going to change anything. Others would say that no, some are desperate, or especially after the January 25th revolution, many expectations or many hopes were not met, or the mission was not fulfilled. Your explanation first.
Well, I think this is a very sensitive issue, and you just mentioned some of the causes probably for this lack of participation. But I do think that one of the most influential considerations, not only for youth, but for a lot of others who did not participate in these democratic events, whether referendums or elections or whatever, was the historically inherited practices about election.
Yeah.
Of course, we have to understand that democracy, at the heart of any democratic participation or democratic regimes, I would say, comes the election. But historically, our recent history was not full of positive experiences when it comes to election. So there has been a time in Egypt when a lot of people, most of the people indeed in the streets, were agreeing that why would I go if the outcome, if the result of election is known in advance
already.
So that have left a sort of bitterness and psychological bitterness at the heart of every Egyptian indeed. Will that be changed diametrically just after the revolution? No, it will take some time. That's why I don't see it as a nagging problem indeed. It will take some time. But it has to be supported from both sides of the story. I'm talking about the official state organizations, administrations are committed to do some steps. I'm talking also about the societal circles.
And media.
And of course, media is one of the influential circles. So we talk about different partners in the story of elections.
I'll tell you something,
it's not
sir,
governmental.
If you are going to bid or if you are going to analyze the scene, you would find something which is really very strange, or at least in the beginning it was very strange. You would find the simple citizen, not that well educated, not those who went to universities and who made their high studies, knowing well that they do have a right and they do want to go to practice this right.
Yeah, you're right.
But those who are calling themselves the elite are those who...
Less enthusiastic, yeah.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
I totally agree with you. Indeed, you just touched on one very painful fact.
Yeah.
We have to face it. Those who you named the elite...
who are naming themselves the elite.
Oh, yeah. Well, a lot of names indeed, but they are heartless, you know. Anyway, those who might think that they are elite, their ceiling of ambitions are very high and not realistic.
At all.
And that makes it sometimes for them very depressing, you know. So why would they go? Their expectations were very high, but they weren't met. So probably some level of culture or education might lead them to the wrong way of, yeah, we need this today. If it doesn't happen today, I'm not in. Of course, this is wrong. A lot of the problems associated with election and democratic practices in general as you just mentioned, by the simple nature of the Egyptian citizen, they understand the story. They know that Egypt go today through a very sensitive phase of our history.
I mean, how do you see this equation? The sense of belonging, even.
Yeah, exactly.
The awareness of those very simple people
are much higher.
Much higher.
Exactly.
Better, and it's very, I should say, wonderful. Or
it is wonderful for
an academic, and on the other hand, a technician, for example. With all my respect to both of them, but this one, oh, what the hell I'm going to do? I'm gonna waste my time. I'm gonna leave my studies or my work. No, I will go. No, this is my right, and I'm going to practice it. Both images, for me, it was first. It was, strange. It was shocking. But after that, I used to see this, and it was repeated more than once in many occasions.
That's true. And even I would say more when you go deeper into the small countryside and villages, you will be impressed how the normal, simple citizens are very patient, are very understanding to the difficulties that the country go through. I'm really impressed. On the contrary, when it comes to the more educated and what we call the more cultural category of the society, we find a lot of depression and a lot of anger.
Yeah.
This comes usually, as I said, that the ceiling of their expectations are not realistic, and they don't match, the circles of history together.
Yep.
They don't have this sort of transition, positioned, while the normal citizen, understand this.
I'll tell you the theory of farmers. The theory of farmers, when you cultivate your land with your efforts, with your sincere work, your land is going to reward you.
That's true.
And this is exactly how they live.
That's true.
And because of this, they have this kind of patience.
Simple wisdom.
And wisdom. Because if we work, then we are going to gain. If we produce, we are going to gain. But if we don't, how I'm going to think that I'm going to be better, or my country is going to be better?
That's the dilemma. Now,
this is the story.
This is the story, really. I totally agree with you. And we have the problem today with some sectors of the youth generations today who thought that they should get everything today without even doing anything.
How?
Well, that's really the question. It's a very big mistake, and I have to say that this is an acceptable practice. Even you don't find it, as you just said, in the normal, simple people who are less educated, because they know, as you just said, that you have to cultivate the land and you have to exert a lot of efforts on the ground until you start to get the feedback.
And only then you are going to be rewarded.
Of course, but you cannot be rewarded just while you are sitting on the cafe or you are waiting for a job.
Yeah, sir. But there is here another phenomena: women.
Yeah.
When it comes to those referendums we were talking about, or the elections or the voting process, you would find the queues of women, whether young or old, from all categories of age. This was also another phenomena which sent a real message to the whole world on how the Egyptian women in general are thinking, or how they are very much aware of their rights first and of the role second.
What was really impressive, the way that women in Egypt have explained themselves by the practices of election, whether during referendums or other electoral events, it really has given a very positive model of our future. And I wasn't even surprised, because I know that the Egyptian woman is very patient and very strong, and they have this natural wisdom that makes them stronger than normal, and they have more abilities to endure the suffering, endure tough situations. And we have to remember that most of the Egyptian women who are working, they are working and they are raising their kids.
Yes.
And when they finish their
wearing
work,
so
they
many
go back.
hats. Sir.
So they are doing a lot of jobs at the very same day.
Yeah.
while most of the men are on the contrary, just doing the only one job.
Thank you very much for this, sir.
It's not a compliment to a woman. Indeed, this is reality.
Yeah.
And I wasn't impressed because of the turnout for the election. The participation was more in women than men.
Yeah. And from all age categories.
Exactly. It's not only the well-educated categories, but also the less and even the who are not educated at all. It takes me back to the wisdom, as I said at the beginning, the wisdom of being citizen, a good national for the country. The natural formation of the Egyptian woman personality is not easy. It's tough. It's tough and very loyal indeed. That's why and let me tell you, during my visits to the countryside in different occasions, I met a lot of women, very simple, and a lot of men, of course. And when I have discussions with them, I usually found women more optimistic and more hopeful and sure
for
even
for
a better tomorrow. Yeah.
Sir, why you have chosen this topic to discuss today? Because we do have very important two, I should say, events which took place in 2016, and we are about to enter 2017. Considering 2016 as the year of the youth by the presidency or by President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi to hold the first international youth conference in Sharm el-Sheikh with the participation of more than 3,000 of our youth, and the pardoning of 81 youth of the youth who were detained, and the directives of the International Youth Conference turned to be the recommendations, which turned to be presidential directives to review the law of demonstrations, to discuss the cases of the youth detained. I mean, and these things were not ink on paper. They turned to be directives and implemented on the ground less than 1 month. 81 prisoners were released according to the presidential pardon, and we are expecting that a new batch is going to be released before the end of the year. First, how do you see this?
Well, I see this as a good sign, positive sign from the decision-making level in Egypt that the youth should be receiving the due attention and consideration. And let me tell you also that yes, we are in tough times in Egypt where we have to take sometimes some tough measures to deal with our challenges. One of these tough measures is to use the presidential pardon because it's not normal, and in normal times it's not acceptable in a massive scale.
Yeah.
Because this is sort of underestimation to the judicial process.
Sure.
But today we need that. We need that because we need to cut the way off in front of those who are trying to misuse the enthusiasm of our young generations. A lot of them probably might be, expressing their opinions in a very enthusiastic way, and sometimes they commit mistakes. They even violate the law, but it's not out of being criminal inside them, but just out of being.
And because of this, President al-Sisi asked
exactly.
or ordered to review each case.
Exactly.
In isolation.
And most of them, by the way, they are students.
Yes.
Students.
Yeah.
That's why I see this as a very positive attitude from the president, and I'm very hopeful that even the coming batch will be followed by another and third one. And I do also observe today that we are moving, although slowly but positively, into the spot where we realize more wisdom of participation in the young generations.
But far from this, how we can prevent this from happening in the first place?
You will not, even in future, you can't be able to prevent this 100%. But you can control it.
For example, we do have a lot of parties, of political parties, but unfortunately, and we should admit this fact that many of them are only cartoons.
Exactly.
And they do not have any effect on the ground. They do not deal with the people. They do not have popularity. They even they are not even well known for the people, even their names, even the titles. How can we educate our youth politically? How we are going to let them express all what they are thinking about, all their opinions, points of views, without turning freedom into chaos? Because this is a very important thread, a very important fine line.
Well, we have to be realistic. This is not an easy task, by the way. You are talking about one of the toughest steps for moving towards democracy. How to implant the maturity of political participation among people in general, and youth, of course, on top of them. It takes years and years, but we should start. I think one of the most important steps that have been used massively in different other countries is to open frank dialogue with youth, young generations. It's not acceptable that there is sort of division and there is isolation between the youth from one side and the government or the administration on the other side. As you just mentioned, we have another problem which is so identical in other countries historically as well, is the absence of real parties on the street.
Yeah.
As you said, cartoon parties, they don't have influence on the street, so they are more or less zero in the equation. Yeah, of course.
I don't know,
100.
10
100
of them
without real presence.
Without real presence.
So that makes it even more tough for the decision-making level in the country, and for the civil society on the other side to do their best in sort of strategically planned movements towards attracting young generations to mature political participation. First of all, we need to know the culture of freedom, how to exercise our right of freedom, whether freedom of speech or freedom of expression, or freedom of movement, or freedom of demonstrations. All of these freedoms, while they are rights, at the heart of these rights lie the commitments. If the young generation, they have to understand that yes, they have freedom of expression, but this freedom of expression is conditional. It's conditioned because while they exercise their right of expression, they should be exercising it in a good way.
A very great difference between freedom and chaos.
Exactly.
Freedom of expression and insulting others.
Exactly. That's
hurting the feelings of someone and criticizing
they
him
don't
or her.
know.
And this
they
is my question:
know.
how to make them very much well civilized, well educated to know the difference between these things.
This is responsibility of both official circles of the government. They have to do more creative steps to do this, and also from the civil society.
Box, starting with the schools, for example.
Exactly, starting even from KG. I mean, the political education is really a must today. And of course, you have universities, you have places for huge gatherings of students and cadets and clubs. And you have, of course, hundreds of thousands of schools. And this sort of education have to expand to all these peripherals. They have to go all to... And actually, we need to start this as soon as possible. And I'm quite sure that if we just do this today, probably within 1 year or two, we will witness a very positive change on the ground in the attitude of the young generations.
Let's say in the coming 10 years, sir, not a year or two.
I can't blame them.
10 years.
Well, it could take 10 and could take 50.
No, I mean a generation.
It's not. No, I wouldn't say generation, but I would say it depends on the mechanism and the methodology.
Yes.
Which tools you are going to use. You are going to consider young generations a mindful generation, or just subservient to what you are going to tell them? Are you going to use classic ways, which is now abandoned by them, and then you will not be successful, or you are going to use more creative ways to reach all the spots and all the places where the young generations are? So it has something to do with the methodology and the tools.
Amen to that, sir. But do you think here that the inclusion of social media, for example, should be that effective? Because, for example, yesterday I was watching one of the talk shows and there was a survey in the streets, and the reporter was asking many of the youth about a very well-known, famous anchor, TV anchor, a talk show anchor. They didn't know him.
They don't watch.
Because they don't watch, meaning that the TV programs are not now that effective when it comes to this sect, when it comes to youth. No, Facebook and Twitter are much more effective.
Well, the wisdom dictates that we should deal with this as a fact and not ignore that. That's why I told you, will we use techniques which are abandoned by them, then they will not be successful. The social media hubs today are the bridges, the quickest bridges to the young generations, because all of them today, they have the smartphones, they have the Android phones, and they are 24/7 connected to the internet, and they are using this in a massive way.
Let me read this. An independent English language news site in Qatar accused the Gulf state of censorship on Thursday, saying 2 internet service providers had simultaneously blocked access to it. Sir, are you with or against blocking some of the services or the internet service providers because of what they are saying or what they are delivering to the people? With or against?
Of course, I'm against blocking anything.
Okay.
You know why? It's so simple. If you block it, it means that as a state, you declare your failure, not to be able to handle it in the due process, in the right way. Instead of blocking, do more efforts in reaching to those people in the right way. We have to learn their languages. We don't have alternatives. If we keep blocking, so we will block every day one window, and tomorrow another window, until we close all the windows, and then it's total darkness.
But if this internet service provider is exceeding the limits, I mean, if it is, for example, asking the people for a military coup, for a coup,
well, let me
for
tell
something
you.
like that.
I would tell you something else. Do you expect or attend or psychologically expect, even in future, that there will be one day without any evil attitude? It will never happen. But you have to deal with that in the positive way. The positive way is to upgrade culture, upgrade knowledge, and upgrade loyalty. And we should not run away from the confrontation by just blocking, because just blocking is not... It's exactly like security solutions for problems.
Yeah.
Security solutions, yes, they are effective, immediately, but in the long run, they are not effective.
Yeah.
Because most of the problems we face in the street today, they are not security nature. They are of another societal problematic nature.
Yes, and it's accumulated.
Exactly.
Yes.
So if you just, suffice by dealing with it and with only security, it means that you are just keeping your eye blocked or blind, about the truth behind that. That's exactly what happened with the young generation when we try to block any window just because it's being misused. No, even if it is being misused, there is an obligation on the state, and the official state, the culture minister and the young youth ministry, all education ministry, and all of this. They join hands together in how to present a dose of knowledge, enlightenment, culture, civilized behavior, discipline.
And
to the
if just our
generations.
youth do have a chance, they are going to do a lot.
Of course.
President Abdel Fattah
Of
al-Sisi,
course.
of the very important statements he said right after the International Youth Conference, which was held in Sharm el-Sheikh, that the past 3 days or the 3 days of the conference were of the best witnessed by Egypt in general, in its modern history.
Exactly.
Well, sir, tomorrow is another day, and we are now out of time, but we are going to leave you, sir, with a promise to see you again in another episode of Windows. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
We had the pleasure to have with us the Professor Dr. Ibrahim Ghazawy, our political analyst of this episode of Windows. Well, by this we come to the end of this episode. On behalf of Ashraf Makram, Numeri Shuman, myself, Nermin Abdurrahman, and of course my dear colleague Dina Hussein, many thanks for watching. Stay tuning on Nile TV International always for more updates, and for more details please log on to www.nileinternational.net.